So I just got to the studio and I really want to open up the kiln to look. I did a Bisque firing. Oh man, I did it on Saturday. Today's Wednesday. I was going to come Monday, but my motorcycle was stolen on Sunday night and it cascaded to several days not coming to the studio. So I'm going to flip the camera around here. All right, and whoa! Look at that. Holy crap. Fuck. Okay. What the hell? Oh my God. So there was one of these pieces was laying flat here. I can guess what happened. I put a normal, this is a Bisque firing. It's only to 08, cone 08, which is kind of a low temperature, even a low temperature for Bisque, but it's one that I use. And when I make these pieces, these things, they're slip cast, so they're like this, and these lower corners, I think, collect a lot of clay, and I bet you it just ran too fast. And there was probably, you know, the pieces had, like, look here, here's a corner, like that's really thick. That's really thick clay in the corners, and it just ran too fast for the thickness of the clay. I can guess. So this piece, sorry, hold on, let me try to get this. I should take this all apart. This piece has glaze on it. Let's see. These are stuck on there. Maybe not. Maybe I'll get them off. We'll see. Let's have a little talk about the kiln explosion. The pieces, everything survived except for the one piece that actually exploded. The one piece that got had been glazed and had little particles kind of blown on over it. I think those little particles, I'll be able to kind of scrape them off. It's fine. The disappointing part about this, the white bit, is my gator skin, and it started crackling at the top, but I when I brushed it on, I did not put it on thick enough on the bottom for it to get the kind of crackled look. You can see the crackling up at the top here. I wanted that like on the whole thing. So I might actually reglaze this with the gator skin on the bottom, because this has only been Bisque now. It's been Bisque twice. It was Bisque when I first made it, and then this firing with the explosion. So I think I'm going to put another layer of gator on there and put it on thicker and make sure it crackles before I load it in the kiln. So then I made these stands for these pieces. This piece will sit on the stand, and then it allows me to fire them standing up so I can get like gravity effects in the kiln. These, by the way, are called concave tableau glaze studies, and I've numbered them. This is the very first one, and it's actually chunky. It's like, it didn't cast well. Whenever you slip cast normally, the first one out of the mold, usually you don't release so well, and this one didn't. Can't really fully explain that phenomena, but it's been pretty consistent. Okay, and then I made a bunch of these are drip trays that go under the whole lot in the kiln. And so if I have like massive glaze accidents, like dripping glazes that's flowing off, then it'll go on the drip trays. I didn't really make a mold for that. I just have pieces of plaster and flat, really big flat bats that I slip cast these on. I actually slip cast those rather. I guess I could just roll them out on a, like with cream clay. I have cream clay. Lesson learned is ramp up the heat slower for these concave tableaus because the corners are so thick. You know, it's really water that is the problem. Heating up, like turning to steam inside. There is like just little bits of water. So we'll do a slower ramp, it'll be fine. I fire really thick work, and it's fine as long as you do it slowly. All right, we're gonna take the mold, take the plaster out of the molds. I poured plaster the other night. We are going to. You aren't gonna do anything. So let's get the irritating ones out of the way first. These little guys. I might need air. I don't remember if I made holes in them for the air. Didn't need to. There we go. So these have silicone, platinum silicone rubber molds on the inside of a plaster shell. Good thing is they've been sitting for several days, so they're quite dry. Well, they're not totally dry. There's a little air pocket, which is funny because you know, I had degassed this plaster. All right. Anyways, successful piece. I thought about doing another round of plasters for these, but I'm gonna not. I have one set for this mold already. This will be the second, and I think that's enough to keep me going with the test tiles and whatnot I want to do. This one actually has a hole I put in partly to blow air into the back so I can shoot the mold out easier, but came out just fine. So the idea is you can use less rubber if you back it up with some kind of, you know, hard material like plaster. So another successful one. This is gonna have, I gotta, you know, like knock off the corners later. We'll do that with the Sureform later. All right, and then the big ones, pretty simple. It's fine. I stamped the original. This was the wax. Well, it was this. I stamped the bottom I've got my name and it says structures, but that stamp didn't really come out very well. It's a little disappointing. So when I make these, I've found over the years that that just broke. That's hilarious. I think we're gonna repair this. That just broke. That's what holds my mold together. Anyways, I was gonna say, like, these are very rough. And I kind of like making them rough like that. I'm not really into like making really pristine molds necessarily. When I started, I really tried to like make really pretty molds. There's even a video I have on YouTube going back. It's a slip casting video where I did my shell mold. That almost needed to be beautiful. And if I was to make that again today, I'd probably make it beautiful. It's not like the most attractive mold on the outside, but the inside's really crazy cool looking because it's a 4-part mold of a shell, and it's really gorgeous. Listen, we're gonna fix this later, and I would rather fix it with the plaster still inside of it, because the plaster is gonna hold the shape perfectly. If I take the plaster out and I try to fix this, look at that. That's just ridiculous. That was so thin. What was I thinking? I didn't know it was so thin. That just broke so easily. We're gonna fix this later. I'll show you what I'll do. Anyways, I'm leaving this plaster in that mold. We're not gonna take that out yet. Some of them, like this one, I knew was thin, and I put, well, we're gonna fix it with that. I use burlap to repair or, you know, strengthen plaster molds. So we'll do a burlap trick on the broken part there. Yeah, looks good. Couple little air pockets, surprising. I maybe, you know, I was hoping that the degassing would have eliminated all the air pockets. What I should have done is degassed, but also when you put the plaster in, after you fill up the mold, the rubber, you can go in with a brush, chip brush, and just quickly go over the surface of the you know, the actual part you're trying to get, which is the skull, and it knocks all the air bubbles loose. Next time, just test tiles. Good enough for me. Okay, let's fix this thing before we go any further. All right, we're gonna. I got the burlap, the biggest, like, it's not a problem, but it's something to get the burlap off the shelf. Comes from up high, lives an elevated life. So I'm gonna cut a piece, if you can see that or not. So I've cut a piece that's going to go over the I think this is technically called a mother mold. You know, if you know terminology and you want to comment on it, by all means do. So, just double checking I'm going to get a good fit. Looks like it fit back together perfectly. Good enough for me. We got that piece. Maybe I might do a double layer. Why not? I got the burlap on. Let's make this thing strong as a freaking steel vault. Okay. So mixing containers. These are rubber, super nice, because you don't necessarily need to clean them out when you mix the plaster. You can leave the plaster in there and get to it later. Set myself up over here so I can. I'm actually gonna wet the plaster up a bit to start with. Should take the patch better. Although honestly, I'm not worried about it. I could leave this thing dry and the patch. It's so rough. This thing is like a crazy rock. Okay, so. Water. I put I'm not measuring any of this. We're going rough. We're going to do a very rough island method here, where when you see the plaster floating in the water, where it will stay for 10 or 15 seconds before it sinks, then that's a good amount of plaster. It's a thing. Like, you can see that plaster, it's slowly, almost like dissolving into the water. That's perfect. Okay. Got my mixer. I should let it. Usually you let plaster slake for at least a minute, 2 minutes. Slaking means steeping. But for plaster. Whatever. This is a patch. This isn't like a real slip casting mold. I'll say this for slip casting mold. I have a weight chart for water and plaster ratios based on volume of cubic inches, and I follow a pretty strict regimen in terms of making sure that I use the ratio, and I mix a minute and a half. If I gas, I'll mix 2 minutes, maybe even 3 minutes, depending on the mold, depending on the volume of with the mixer all the time. Like I'm very kind of strict, so I get consistent mold. It's a thing. I took a workshop with in New York City. There's art store called The Complete Sculptor, 19th Street now. It used to be downtown. And they sponsored a USG rep to come and give a workshop on plaster. I know that guy has questions. But I feel like I got a good level of education about the plaster we're using for slip casting. All the plasters actually, hydrocal, plaster Paris, kind of dumb plaster, but there's some really sophisticated plasters. Okay. I didn't bring a Pinot bucket. That'll get me by for a few minutes. Okay.
Okay.
So
So
fit together nice.
nice.
I'm gonna slather on some. See, look at that, man. It just soaks it up. Loves it. Slather my butt, pouring this stuff on here. Yeah, look at that. That's the business. Okay. Let's get one of these guys going. So with the burlap, you soak it in plaster. And then drape it over whatever you're using it on. This. I got a good, nice fit there. That's freaking wonderful. Do like that. We'll pour a little bit more on here. Scooch it up sides. Side by the edge of the table. Use a brush maybe. So I'm not dumping too much plaster on the floor. And the idea is that the burlap is once it sets up and this plaster's on there, it's going to get rock hard. One of the main ideas is that there is some kind of void space between the burlap and the plaster object below. So I want to try to get as much plaster as I can in that void space to kind of fill that up, and then just let the burlap work later. Like it'll go really nice. So because this is going on pre-cured plaster, it sets up pretty fast. I mean, kind of ridiculously fast, really, compared to like normal. So you gotta be pretty fluid here. And as promised, we're gonna go two burlaps. Let's do it. Got enough plaster. I got the burlap. Quick. Get you on there. Oh yeah. This thing's gonna be like running here if there was need of a bombshell. So. Oh yeah. Look at that. Yeah, so if you ever break a plaster mold, get yourself some burlap, glue that sucker back together. And it's not about gluing the joint. It's just about holding it together where it goes, because the broken joint is going to just go where it needs to go. It's not gonna. I mean, this thing got realigned, I think, perfectly. So let's hope it did. Maybe it's not. Maybe I just totally screwed something. I have to make a whole new plaster mold. I doubt it. It's possible. It is what it is. Okay. I think I've got a pretty good. Want me to pour this on here? Why not? Oh yeah. Oof. Yep. That's fantastic. All right, I need to get the plaster off this brush quick. I got a new gimbal and the thing's got tracking and I can see it following me around. That's wonderful. Okay. That's good. That's good. Oh, the gimbal lost me. Wow. Yeah, I'm over here. Hello. Yeah. And like I said, these silicone rubber mixing bins are fantastic. I can just leave this. If I think of it later, I'll show you what it looked like with the dry plaster to clean it. I'll probably be tomorrow or whenever I'm in next. And then for cleanup of tables, I'm using cabinet scrapers here. I'm not going to go too crazy in a moment. I'm just going to kind of push it all towards the mold. And we can clean that up later. This is a Corian wood table, so it's really super easy to clean plaster off of. All right. Then Sureform planes. This blade is getting kind of gummed up. Still operating. This is a pretty thin mold, so I'm cleaning it up, but I'm trying to be a little careful so I don't break it. This is the second mold that I made for this skull monolith idea, and the other plaster mold actually broke one of these, not by mishandling, but when I used banding straps to hold the mold together when I slip cast it, and when I clamped down on the banding strap, it broke at one point. So I mean, it's fine. I actually could just slip cast the part and replace it, but I don't mind it being a little rough. It's got it flashes a little bit there where the break is. I can see the seam. So I need to clean off, like it this pours over, and it's a problem when I try to fit the whole thing together. These pieces need to be cleaned off, and you know these kind of things I'm cleaning are on the outside of the mold. It's not next to the area where I slip cast, so I can be a little bit rough. I grabbed a chisel because the Sureform was kind of gummed up. Just trying to get this excess plaster off of here so I can fit the whole mold together. So I'm in my studio 3, maybe even 4 nights a week. I go after work. I don't stay terribly late these days, but I usually get total, maybe 3 hours, 4 hours in the studio. And then usually I'll have a really long Saturday in the studio. And it's like I really love being in the studio, making the things I make. Yeah, also these, I don't know if you can see that, but they have these rough edges. But like this is a side, and it doesn't connect. It's not connected to anything else. I'll actually chisel it off just so I don't have a sharp edge and stuff that can chip off easily. Get pieces of plaster like flying around the studio and maybe getting inside the clay, which isn't nice. Look, I just chipped something off there. Okay. This piece also is, you know, this surface is the only surface that gets slip cast against, so the bottom is completely doesn't matter at all. But I'm just gonna knock this, there's kind of a sharp corner here. I'm gonna knock that down so it doesn't, you know, if they're smooth, it helps when you put the banding straps on to hold it together. You can slide those around sometimes. If the sharp corners will grab the cloth of the banding strap. Yep. All right. It's a nice rough piece. So this is I poured this plaster Saturday. Today's Wednesday. That's several days. It's been in the silicone rubber, so it's still damp. I can feel the cool, is that a word? The coolness of the plaster, and a little bit, you know, I can feel dampness with my fingers. So these are gonna have to dry for, you know, the studio here is probably, I can't see, but between 65 and 70. And it's you know, it's a little on the cool side, and it's good for working. It's good for working, but on the cool side, and it's winter time now coming. It's November, so it takes the plaster molds longer to dry. It takes everything longer to dry. I have a fan, but I won't even bother putting it on. I'm not in a rush to get this. Let's see. Okay. So this is, you know, I can't say that this is dry. I think I'm not going to spend any time like trying to clean this up right now. I'm just going to let it dry over here also, so we can clean up the table and move on to the next exciting task of the evening. Sorry about the noise. Okay, mixing up the slip. I'm going to, so I mixed a fresh batch of casting slip on Saturday. Was that Saturday? That might have been another day. Never mind. Maybe it was Saturday. It's Wednesday today, so it's 5 days later. Tonight I've been mixing it several times to get ready for what I'm about to do, which is balance the specific gravity. So with casting slip, the amount of water in the slip is important, along with its ability to flow, its viscosity. So the water content is the thing that needs to be balanced first, and then so we measure specific gravity by weighing out. I have a 100 milliliter scientific canister that's like precisely 100 milliliters, and it'll tell me the specific gravity of the slip. I always kind of under water the slip when I make it, and then I'll have to add water to get the specific gravity down. And it kind of needs to be done slowly, like over probably a couple days. And then once the specific gravity is dialed in, then I will test how well it flows. There's a viscosity cup that I will use, and the cup is a size, and I fill it up and let it drain through it. It's got like a funnel at the bottom of it and a small hole, and I time how long it takes to drain the cup. I aim for, in the low 20 seconds to drain the cup. I find that with a specific gravity of 1.73 and the viscosity cup draining in, say, 20 to 25 seconds, that combination with my clay recipe makes for the best slip cast molds. The clay sets up in the plaster molds in a reasonable amount of time. The walls thicken up like 30 minutes, and then it also drains out of the mold when I'm done in a pretty efficient way. If the specific gravity or that flow kind of get out of balance, then it affects the way the molds cast. I should add that for that viscosity adjustment, slip casting clay has deflocculant, which is a chemical that it's going to sound like hocus pocus, but it electrically it causes, so clay particles are flat compared to like crushed up. Most of the materials in the studio, like in the chemistry lab for all the ingredients that goes into glaze and clay, those are just crushed up rocks. They're kind of roundish or craggy objects, I think, if you looked at them under a microscope. Clay are flat particles, very flat. And deflocculant goes in and it causes them to kind of electrically like repel each other. There's ways of explaining it that I'm not doing a great job at by saying that, but it's my understanding that the clay particles get repelled from each other. So when we mix casting slip, I didn't really show it when I mixed it. The next time I do it, I will. The amount of water that's in there without the deflocculant will leave you with a thick mud that you can't even mix with a mixer. It is like dough, and you literally are not able to mix it. You add deflocculant, and I'm talking about a small amount, like a quarter of a cup in a big batch like mine, and it just goes liquid. And it's this action of all these particles repelling each other. So to some extent, the deflocculant allows you to make casting slip so you use less water than you would if you were just trying to like float all those particles in water. One, I don't know if that's a valid thing to say, but more is that the casting slip and this like repulsion it has between the particles allows the clay to stay suspended in water. It's kind of interesting because you would think that the casting slip would settle in the bucket over time, but I can it to some extent it does a little bit, but I can leave that for days, not mixing it, and come in, and it's just this homogeneous mass of floating clay inside a liquid. If anything, the top layer starts gelling a little bit, I think because it's drying out. But as soon as I turn the mixer on for 20 seconds, that top layer kind of gets churned into the main batch, and you have this like really liquid business. And it's pretty amazing casting slip that way, as far as the material goes. Over time, if you watch the channel, I'll start making molds and showing you how slip casting, especially for the kind of work I do. And if you want to see my work, you can go to Instagram, Andy Grave Structures, and just check that out. Hard to explain in the moment, but slip casting is the only way that you could actually really make those objects. There's no other mold system, be it, you know, any kind of rubbers or resins or even molten processes like, you know, with metals or glass. None of those could produce the pieces that I produce. And yeah, if you stay tuned over time, I'll talk about that. It's one of the things that really attracts me to slip casting is its uniqueness in being able to make pieces that I couldn't do any other way. And for me and my mold system, it really gives me a lot of freedom to be pretty creative in terms of the objects I'm making. All right, so on to balancing the specific gravity in the casting slip. So I need a couple things. This is my, there's some scientific name for this thing. This is a 100 ml container. I'll show you how it works in a second. Really precisely measures out 100 milliliters of whatever you put in it, whatever liquid you put in it. I use a triple beam scale. It's very accurate, but it's not anywhere close to as accurate as like this digital scale. The problem is the digital scale here only goes to a certain weight. It won't go as high as I need it for the specific gravity measurement with this cup. This cup weighs something, so it kind of blows out that scale. That thing, the digital scale is accurate to 3 significant digits, you know, after the decimal point, where the balance beam, maybe 2 digits, and it's kind of rough. You know, it's not as refined as the digital. Okay, I'm gonna get my, I need some clay, and I need to get set up here, so. All right, here's my normal program. I'm not gonna sieve this. just as a matter of trying to minimize mess, I usually use a small container to scoop it into a larger container. So here's the program. We got this casting slip with the deflocculant, right? We got this cup. I forget the name of these things. There is a like scientific. This is a laboratory instrument. It's quite good. I like to do this with a syringe. So I'm looking for 100 milliliters. I mean, I don't have to watch the syringe. So put it in. That's probably actually a little bit much. So when you put this top on, this thing has a hole in it, and the liquid's meant to come out the top. So here I did, as I predicted, too much. It's okay. It's not the end of the world here. Want to get all this excess off because you want a really pretty accurate weight to be able to measure. You know, every gram counts here. I'm even going to wipe this water off. Oh, scheisse. Such a klutz. Now I didn't fill it properly. I lost something there when I did that. I'm going to fill it again. All right, here we are, Mr. Mess. Okay. I need a little more. Yeah. Every gram. So I've got what was clean water, simple sponge. Wipe all this business off. Wipe the bottom. Dry it off. Let's not let it open this time again, sir. Okay. Put it on the scale. Right now, I actually have the scale set up where if the cup is empty and I have it set up at 100 grams, I have the scale zeroed out. So right now I have the weight is up to 200 grams here and 70 on the back one. And so those combined. So the oh man, I'm sorry. Could I just like try to work a little harder to explain this, please? Okay, the empty cup's 100 grams. I have right now 270 on, so that means I have 170, but the scale is showing that I need to increase the weight to balance out what's in the cup. And so I'm dialing down. So if that's 170, these are single grams. So right now I'm at 174, 175, 176, 177. And the scale's going nuts over here. So we back this off, we're zero. So right now it's at 176.4. I want 173. So I'm going to add, so this means that, let's explain this. let's explain this. So the specific gravity at 173 is 173 is not a magic number in and of itself. It just happens to be that is a range of slip casting clays, a specific gravity that worked pretty well for them. It does work very well with my clay. My clay is my own recipe, and I've used it a lot, made hundreds of gallons of slip, and that 1.73 is like my magic number for my clay. And I think a way to think about that number is water by itself, its specific gravity would be 1.00. That's right. And if you start adding solids, which are denser than the water, then that number is going to increase. It's going to go up. If the number was less than 1.00, like if you could somehow mix styrofoam into water, you would end up with a material that had a specific gravity lower than 1.00. That makes sense, to me at least. So the 1.73 is just showing that the material, the casting slip, is heavier than water. And so when I think about trying to balance the specific gravity, if, for example, if the specific gravity is 1.70, lower than 1.73, that would mean that that's closer to just water, which is 1.00. In other words, it would mean there's too much water in the casting slip. So in those situations, if I've overwatered the casting slip, then I just leave the bucket open for a few days and let some of the water evaporate out, remix it up, and voila, you get something that has a higher specific gravity. Right now, I have 1.764, 1.76, let's say, 1.76 and a half, which means it's heavier than I want it. So it needs water. So I'm going to add probably, I'm going to look at my notes. I believe I underwater kind of a general target of about 300 milliliters. I'm pretty sure that's what I did with the slip. I'm going to look at my recipe. So I'll probably add 150 milliliters to start with, mix it up, and check it and see where that lands. The thing is, I don't want to, it takes a day, at least in my experience, to have that water really absorb into the entire contents of the bucket. So adding water at this point is not going to give me a really like accurate measurement, at least in my experience. It'll fluctuate by tomorrow a little bit. So I'm going to not try to add the whole 300 milliliters, which I think it probably will need. I'll start with 150 right now and check it and see how that does. And then I'll decide what to do after I've added the water in. All right, so so much for my feeble brain and its memory. I just said that I thought that I might be like 300 milliliters low. Not even like in the ballpark. I'm 2,000 milliliters low. Oops. But the interesting thing is, the specific gravity is only 1.76. I'm not sure that, well, I feel pretty confident if I added 2,000 milliliters that I'm going to really blow out the water on that thing. So we're going to go, I use these cups, they have milliliters. It's accurate enough for what we're doing. There's 500 to fill this thing up to the line. Okay. So dump that in. And I'm gonna let this mix. I'm gonna let this mix for probably, sorry, I'm gonna walk away from the bucket so it's not so loud. I'm gonna let that mix for probably 5 minutes, and then we'll go back to the balance beam and see where we are. All right, so 500 milliliters of water, 5 minutes of mixing. We're doing another 100 ml fill of the scientific cup, whose name I don't remember. While the slip was mixing, I took this little scientific cup and cleaned it and even dried it. So we're starting absolutely fresh. I dried even the inside of it out, so there's no water. So this is the way it should look when you like squeeze when you put the lid on, and there's this hole in the middle, so this business squirts up. Wipe that off, and it should be like the top of the lid is slightly concave, so it's really full of liquid. Yeah, I think it's very accurate. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay. And put it on the scale. Let's see what we got here. So I didn't move it from where it was. It's still set at 1.764. It is now like the scale is showing too much weight. It's down, so we're gonna dial this back, and we slowly see the scale coming up to be balanced. That is in the ballpark, and we're at 1.754. So we lost 1 gram, or not even a gram. It's 0.01 on this ratio of the material to water. So that was 500 milliliters. We want to get to 1.73, so we still got to dial back 2.5 more. So that would, and I looked at my notes from the last time more thoroughly. I left 2,000 milliliters low when I mixed it. I only added 1,800 milliliters last time to balance it. My first add was actually 1,000 straight away, and I got down to 1.7 something, 7.6 or 7 or something. I lost 2 points down. So I'm going to add another 500 milliliters, another 5-minute mix, and we'll measure one more time tonight. And then I'm going to leave it set overnight, and then pick this back up tomorrow, remix it for a long time, and then remeasure it and see where we're at in the morning. All right, once again, here we are. Another 500 mil. You know what I thought of? I think if anybody who's watching this is a slip caster and wonders about this business and, oh geez, I need this scientific cup, you don't. You could use a graduated cylinder, you know, the plastic ones. The more accurate you are to get the level as precisely to, you know, the same level every time, obviously that's gonna help you be as accurate as possible when you know, are balancing the specific gravity. This cup thing I use, I don't think there's so many slip casting people that actually use this business. Most of them are using graduated cylinders. I'm kind of over the top with some of the things I do. You know, pardon me. Okay, let's look at this. So, here we are again. So this is the next batch, and once again, I've got too much weight on the balance beam, so we've got to dial this back. And I'm dialing back. Going up. And we are now at 1.743. So if we follow that logic, we might think that if I added another 500, for example, it was going to take me down to 1.735. So I'd need a little bit more. So probably in the neighborhood of about 17 to 1800 milliliters, which is pretty much exactly what it was last time I did this. I added 1800 milliliters on top of, you know, when I was balancing. So we're probably going to be in the ballpark, but I'm still waiting until tomorrow to let this settle, sit, remix, let that water absorb into the clay. It takes some days, even like in my experience, like 5 or 6 days for clay to really mature, getting mixed every day. My mixer that I use, I said this in another video, I guess worth repeating. This is a mixer I made. This has a propeller that the, what's that brand? There's a brand of slip casting mixers. It's Lehman, I think. They make mixers. You can buy components from them. So I bought the this shaft and the coupling that goes to the motor, and it has a propeller, you know, down inside, and it's this little propeller. It's like a motorboat propeller on it. And, you know, electric motors spin at roughly 1800 RPMs straight up without any gearing. And, you know, this one doesn't have any like speed control on it. So that's doing 1800 RPMs, which is what the Lehman mixers do. Like, I wasn't just making up something, you know, like on my own. Their mixers are, you know, straight shaft from a motor mixers. And I don't want to spend all the money for their big mixers, so, you know, I made this thing myself. Anyways, I have the mixer on this timer, and I got it set, let's see, it's 3 a.m. in the morning. This thing automatically comes on for 15 minutes, and that keeps it mixed every day. I actually, when I made this batch on Saturday, I forgot to set the timer, so I'm sorry, I went days without being mixed at night. But my normal thing is I let this thing run at night, in the middle of the night, so, you know, it doesn't have to irritate me or other people in the building. It's pretty loud. I think before I think the space below me right now is empty, but there was a woman that was doing leather work down there, and I didn't want to like have the thing coming on during the day and just irritating the crap out of her. So I ran this thing at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I, you know, mine is a 10-gallon bucket. I just cut the lid so the shaft is set up and it goes down in this hole. So it more or less stops water from you know, evaporating out of the thing. Okay, we'll pick that up tomorrow.